You know that person who tears up at commercials during arguments or when someone is just slightly kind to them? Most people think they're just too sensitive. But psychology reveals something far more complex happening beneath the surface. In fact, if you cry easily, your brain might actually be processing the world in high definition. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of people who cry easily. Not the stereotypes, not the judgment, the actual science. But here's what most people don't realize. Crying easily isn't a weakness. In fact, research shows these people process emotions up to 20% faster than others, and their brains are wired completely differently. And this is where psychology gets really interesting. Let's start with the neuroscience. Your brain has something called the limbic system, the emotional control center. For people who cry easily, this system is like a high-performance sport car engine. It responds to emotional stimuli almost instantly. The amygdala, your brain's threat and emotion detector, is often more reactive in these individuals. Think of it like a smoke alarm that's set to detect even the slightest hint of smoke. It doesn't wait for a full fire. It reacts to the possibility. This is why a sad song, a kind gesture, or even a beautiful sunset can trigger tears. Your brain is detecting emotional significance before you've even consciously processed it. But here's where it gets fascinating. Research from the Journal of Research and Personality found that people who cry easily often have heightened sensory processing sensitivity. This isn't just about emotions. It's about how they experience the entire world. They notice subtle facial expressions others miss. They pick up on tone shifts in conversations that fly past everyone else. They feel the emotional temperature of a room the moment they enter it. Dr. Elaine Aron, the psychologist who pioneered this research, calls these people highly sensitive persons, or HSPs. And here's the crucial part. This isn't a disorder. It's a temperament. About 15 to 20% of the population has this trait. It's literally built into their genetics and nervous system. So when someone cries easily, their body isn't malfunctioning. It's operating exactly as designed, just on a different sensitivity setting. Now let's talk about the social side, because this is where the real psychological complexity emerges. From childhood, people who cry easily receive powerful social messages. Don't be so sensitive. Toughen up. Boys don't cry. These messages create what psychologists call emotional invalidation. The person learns that their natural emotional response is wrong, weak, or shameful. This creates a devastating psychological conflict. Their biology says, feel deeply, react authentically. Their social conditioning says, hide it, control it, don't let them see. This conflict creates something called emotional dissonance. It's the psychological equivalent of trying to drive with the parking brake on. And here's the paradox that makes this so psychologically fascinating. The harder they try not to cry, the more likely they are to cry. Psychologists call this ironic process theory. When you actively suppress a thought or feeling, your brain actually increases monitoring for it. It's like being told, don't think about a pink elephant. Suddenly, it's all you can think about. For someone who cries easily, social situations become minefields of suppression. Every conversation is a potential trigger. Every kind word might unleash the flood. And when the dam breaks, which it always does, the release is overwhelming. But here's what the research actually shows about crying. And this might surprise you. Crying isn't just an emotional release. It's a complex physiological recovery system. Emotional tears contain stress hormones and natural painkillers. When you cry, you're literally flushing stress chemicals out of your body. Dr. William Fry, a biochemist, found that emotional tears contain 24% more protein than irritant tears. Your body is literally manufacturing a different kind of tear for emotional release. This means people who cry easily aren't weak. They're efficient. Their bodies recognize emotional buildup faster and initiate recovery sooner. While others store stress in their muscles, their stomach, their sleep patterns, easy criers release it. They process it. They move through it. Research from the University of South Florida found that crying improves mood in 88.8% of cases, but only if the crying happens in the right psychological context. If someone is shamed for crying, the benefits disappear. This brings us to one of the most important psychological concepts: emotional safety. People who cry easily often develop hyper-awareness of emotional safety in their environment. They become experts at reading whether it's safe to be authentic. This creates a fascinating psychological profile: high empathy, deep processing, rich inner life, strong intuition, but also heightened anxiety in social situations, fear of judgment, exhaustion from sensory overload. It's a package deal. You don't get the depth without the vulnerability. Now, let's address the gender psychology here, because this is where society gets it very wrong. We often assume women cry more than men, and statistically, they do report crying more frequently. But here's the critical psychological insight. Men are socially conditioned to suppress tears from early childhood. So the data doesn't show biological difference. It shows cultural enforcement. When men are in safe, private spaces, their crying frequency increases significantly. This means many men who never cry are actually just highly skilled at emotional suppression. And that suppression has serious psychological consequences: increased risk of depression, emotional numbness, relationship difficulties, physical health problems. The person who cries easily might actually be the psychologically healthiest person in the room. They're processing, releasing, regulating, while others are storing, suppressing, and slowly deteriorating. So what should you actually do if you cry easily? Or if you love someone who does? First, reframe it. This isn't a flaw. It's a feature. Your sensitivity is information. It's data about your environment and your values. What makes you cry reveals what you care about most deeply. Second, build emotional safety networks. Find a people who don't flinch when you feel deeply. These are your people. Keep them close. Third, develop emotional regulation skills that work with your sensitivity, not against it. This isn't about becoming less sensitive. It's about becoming more skilled. Techniques like grounding, labeling emotions, and self-compassion are especially powerful for HSPs. Grounding connects you to the present when emotions feel overwhelming. Labeling emotions activates your prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala reactivity. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a dear friend. And if you love someone who cries easily, don't try to fix them. Don't tell them to stop. Don't make it about your discomfort. Just be present. Witness their emotion without trying to change it. That presence is more healing than any advice you could give. Because at its core, crying easily is about being profoundly human. It's about feeling the full spectrum of existence without filters. And in a world that often teaches us to numb out, maybe the ones who cry easily are the ones who are truly awake.